All right, welcome back to the 5 City YouTube channel. We have the Silverstone British GP race review. Happened this morning, so this morning our time. It was about like 3 p.m. if you're in the UK, or over the pond. So yeah, I wanted to just hop on here really quick and do a little recap of what happened because it was pretty insane.
Yeah, super exciting. This has got to be the best race I've seen, most exciting. I mean, every sector of the race just seemed something was going on. Right. And like I said, I have to preface that by saying I'm only a fan for about a year now, so
same. Yeah.
I haven't really seen a lot of the races, but I mean, this by far in the past year, definitely the best race I've seen, most exciting race, things happening, twists and turns, different things, incredible crash was just, we can start with that, I guess.
Yeah, it was insane. I mean,
turn one.
Right. So before the race, I don't know, I was kind of thinking like, I did a little bit of research on the track and I played the game. There's no braking into turn one. It's, flat out. So they're going like they said on the broadcast, from the standing start, they'll get to like 160 miles an hour at turn one. So I kind of figured there might be like something, I don't know. It seems like a more dangerous turn one than a lot of other tracks because there's no braking. You're just flat out and then turning right. But the incidents kind of happened before that. So
yeah, it was way before the turn. Like if you watch the replay, that's what I was surprised about, how much before the turn was the contact.
Right. So it looked like George Russell was on the right, Zhou Guanyu was on the left, and Pierre Gasly kind of tried to come up the middle. And then
right. But
right.
Who came through the middle first?
Latifi, right?
Latifi came through the middle.
So,
that's why he thought he could come through the middle right behind him.
That was dirty, by the way. I don't know. Like, that was insane. I saw it on the replay, and I didn't even realize that he had jumped up to like 8.
Well, right, and there's certain guys that had great starts. Like Latifi was one of them. It was Latifi, Hamilton, and Max.
Yeah.
Those guys had great starts. Everybody else shit the bed on the starts.
I know.
I mean,
some people
they look slow compared to Latifi. Took off, went right between them.
I know. It's crazy how I don't know what got into him this weekend, but he looked really good. But yeah, so the big crash. Latifi went up the middle. Gasly tried to do the same thing. I don't know if it was Gasly's fault or if it was a little bit of blame on Russell.
Yeah, I mean they showed the overhead shot of Russell, his hands on the wheel, and as soon as Latifi went by, he tried to close the distance a little bit.
Yeah. And
that's where the contact happened.
They did show too, I don't know. I mean, like his head's like bouncing up and down, so it looked like he checked his mirror.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So I don't know if he thought Gasly was further and he could close the distance and just prevent him from going through, but they ended up making contact, which pushed George over to the left into Zhou Guanyu, I'm sorry. And yeah, it was insane. It flipped him, and I don't know. You were saying earlier that where the contact was made to where the barrier was that he hit, he slid incredibly far.
The two things I noticed from the contact was the amount of force that George's car ran into the Alfa Romeo.
Right.
Like the force that he hit it with was incredible.
Yeah.
Just turning him and then turning him into the car. And then, where the contact took place compared to where the car ended up eventually was crazy.
I couldn't believe what I was watching. So, obviously, the incident happened, and they showed George get right out of the car and start just running over. So, that obviously was when I kind of had the first instinct of like, okay, this could have been really bad.
Yeah, there's just so much to talk about this race. I feel like we're gonna be here for an hour. But anyways.
Yeah. There's a lot. So George gets out of the car, starts running over to, I forgot. This is a whole other incident.
Right.
That he got out of the car.
But
go ahead. Yeah.
Even before that, so we waited so long just to see the replay. It was at least 45 minutes before they showed the replay to make sure he was okay.
Right.
They don't show any replays until they obviously know he's okay. But once we saw the replay, there was a number of things that I thought on the initial replay, where the
contact
was made, how far the car was thrown, how much distance the Alfa Romeo was on its head.
spinning
and
360
sliding
degrees.
to the when I first saw the replay, I thought, oh, he's stopping at the gravel. Nope. Went right through the gravel
Borderline,
into the fence.
Flipped over the barrier.
Yeah.
So what I caught it, they said it real briefly on the commentary or whatever. They said that a lot of it,
The commentary.
commentary.
We have to pick up the
commentary.
You got to pick up the British accents.
I know. There's so many different. The debris. The garage.
All
There's
right.
a lot of them.
We'll get it. We'll get there.
We'll get there. But what they were saying was they couldn't figure out, like, he was upside down and like wedged into this barrier. They couldn't even they just couldn't get him out. They couldn't get to him.
Yeah.
That's why they really couldn't figure out if he was okay or not, because they legitimately like just couldn't get to him, or like they couldn't like really talk to him or anything.
And then, getting back to that, the third thing I noticed when they showed the replay was George getting out of his car, doing something, and then running over to him.
Yeah.
And I thought, and they showed that before they even showed the crash.
Oh, way before.
Yeah.
I think they showed it right as it was happening. Yeah.
Right. Then that's what made us think, like, holy cow, like something really bad just happened.
Yeah.
I
mean, it was insane. And like when they ended up showing the replay, like I just couldn't believe what I was watching. Like I really never seen a crash that bad live. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like
the amount of
oh man.
And George wasn't just running; it was like running full speed.
Like frantically, with
a
major sense of urgency. Not like he was like mad or something. It was like a emergency type of deal. And it was a long 40 minutes of watching the TV and just whatever. Obviously glad he's okay. Relatively unscathed. He posted something on Twitter. We just retweeted it. But yeah, he seems like relatively fine. Nothing, no problems, no broken bones, no broken legs, no nothing. He said, I'm okay, all clear. Halo saved me today. Thanks everyone for the kind messages. That halo around the top of them.
Yeah, crazy.
I just saw a video like last weekend, and it was like talking about all the drivers that would have died without the halo. And it was like, you can go back to specific races, like, Lewis last year, Max last year. Like, I don't know. There's a lot of them that that halo. It wasn't. When did it get implemented? Not that long ago.
It was.
I mean, within
the year before we were watching, maybe. I don't even know.
It might have been a little earlier. I'll look it up.
Yeah, I'm not even sure. But so George runs over to help him, which leads to another incident, another controversy. Controversy.
No,
is that how you say it?
No, they say controversy.
I don't think so. I think it's controversy.
I don't think
Anyways.
So. By the way, the halo was a thing as of 2018.
Oh, okay. So a couple years before we started watching.
But that's so recent. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Moving on, though.
Yeah. So George was running over, says something to the guys.
Like the marshals or whatever that are on the track.
And from how I interpreted it, he said something like, don't touch the car or something like that.
Right.
And then he goes running over. He comes back after checking on him, comes back, and his car is on the flatbed being taken out. Yeah. So that means, according to the rules, that means his car's done for the day.
Right.
If they get assistance from the marshals, then his car is done for the day.
Yeah, so because technically he needed the car. If you're going by the rules, the car needed, like, it couldn't get off the track on its own power, so it can't rejoin the circuit after the race or rejoin the race. I don't know, it just seems so crazy, like, that the FIA wouldn't. First of all, that the FIA does their proceedings in a way that you can be like, that you can appeal live during the race. Like, not every sport does that. You can't appeal and things like that. Like, they had the opportunity to look at the situation and, bend the rules accordingly. Not even bend the rules, just figure out what really was going on, and they didn't. So whatever, I guess after last year, maybe they don't want to bend the rules. But that was disappointing for George, especially in his home race. Yeah, but like I was saying, it just seems like a thing where they had the opportunity to kind of look at the situation and see what really was going on, and maybe, this had something to do, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, and I don't know if because we're American or we don't know the sport or we don't know this, but it seems like complete bullshit to me. I don't understand why, if the car is drivable and they need assistance to get it off the track and they can make a quick repair and get back on the track, why wouldn't they let them continue to race?
Especially if it's
these
during
guys
a
spend
stoppage.
an incredible amount of money getting these cars ready, the team, everybody, and they just can't. It's like they just cancel it. I don't get it.
It does seem unreal.
It's like, no, you're done.
It seems
done for the day.
Incredibly unreasonable. Like I don't know why it's such a harsh penalty. Like you said, you're done for the day. Whole weekend ruined. 3 practice sessions, qualifying, all the testing ruined. Done.
Yeah, and it just doesn't make sense.
First lap.
And it's not
First
because
turn.
I'm a Mercedes fan. It's anybody. I don't get these teams put so much effort into every little thing, every little aspect of the race, and then all of a sudden an incident happens, and because they had assistance, that the race is done for them for the whole day.
And especially if it was the situation of George saying, don't touch the car, or even if he didn't say anything, he runs and goes to Zhou Guan Yu to make sure he's okay, turns around, his car's on the flatbed.
Yeah, we don't know exactly what happened, and that's
Right.
just what we heard I just heard from George's interview today, but it was, I mean, it just seems like complete bullshit. I just don't understand. I don't understand how the rules work, and I'm sure it's been, and you F1,
Aficionados.
yeah, experts out there can
right,
let us
yeah.
know, but I'm just telling you from my opinion and from
Yeah.
it just seems like complete bullshit.
Right. And for people who know the sport extremely well, know the rules extremely well, maybe we have an interesting perspective. It just seems stupid. I don't know. Maybe it's one of those rules that's been a thing for a long time. But
Yeah,
from our perspective,
I'm sure it's happened before. This is the first time we've seen it, but
right.
I just don't understand the whole thing.
I don't know. Definitely seems weird. Definitely seems like a catastrophic ending to a weekend where Mercedes, George, his engineers put so much work into the setup, upgrading the car, testing and in practice.
But
and
that
things
happens.
Like that.
That happens if they go off the track in the gravel and they can't get out too, right? Isn't that the case?
Yeah, they can't. Right, exactly.
The race is over if you can't get out of the gravel.
Yeah, they're out of the race. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, right. I'm pretty sure.
Which doesn't make much sense to me either.
I mean, but if the race is going on, I understand. Then you need to stop the race, get the car off the track. Then you're going to have to, where do you take the car? I don't know. It seems like a lot. But in this instance, the race was, it was a red flag. All the drivers were in the garage.
Right.
They weren't even in their cars. I don't know.
But even if they go in the gravel, get them out and put them in the back. At least you can keep racing.
Yeah.
If the car's fine, I forgot who that happened to I don't know if it was this year or last year, but I thought the same thing. I'm like, the car's completely fine. You get it out of the gravel, put him to the back of the pack, and let him do what he.
I mean, they're like.
At least let him race.
Maybe, I mean, I have seen cars get out of the gravel. Do you think it's the driver's fault? They beach the car and they spin the tires too many times. They spin themselves in.
Yeah,
You know what I
maybe.
mean? Don't do that. I don't know.
Blame the driver. Yes, I don't know.
No, I know
It's
it's definitely a weird gray area. There seems to be a lot of weird and gray areas in F1.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we
where it's
saw it
like
last year where they just start making up rules. Sorry,
Whatever. I'm not. I choose to live in the present, and my driver is currently 30 points up in the drivers' championship.
make up the rules. So let Max win. Whatever.
Whatever.
Go ahead.
Oh man, we can do a whole season
we won't
of
start in on
episodes
that.
on that. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so that kind of covers, I guess, turn one. Though.
Yeah, turn one. The other thing I was really confused about. So many things happened when the race started. Max instantly overtook Carlos.
I think he just had a better jump, to be honest.
Better jump.
Yeah.
Lewis-
Carlos looks slow.
Lewis, if you watch the straight on cut to the inside, instantly overtook Leclerc.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, incredible start by Lewis.
A lot of people had, some people had really good jumps, like you said offline earlier, and some people just
I think it was only 3 or 4. I think it was like
Yeah,
Max, Lewis, Latifi, from what I saw.
Yeah.
Had great starts.
right.
Everyone else looked like they were stuck in mud for a minute.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They definitely did.
But that was confusing. What I was going to say is that was confusing after this incident was, cleared up and they were going to do the restart and the whole thing,
Right.
they didn't let them start in the positions that when the red flag was thrown or when the red flag was listed.
Yeah.
It was, okay, go back to your almost original starting positions,
It was,
I think.
yeah. It was the
original starting positions.
Original grid positions.
So, as a Max fan and a Lewis fan,
Yeah.
both kind of pissed off about that because Max was 1, Lewis was 2, I think, right?
Yeah. Was Lewis 2 or 3?
I don't know, 2 or 3.
2 or 3. Well, whatever. He gained like 2 positions at least off the jump. Yeah, I was definitely confused. I looked it up, or they said it. I forget, but it's because they didn't complete a lap. I guess you have to complete a lap for it to really count. But the other thing was that they didn't. So I guess there are certain points on the track where the FIA determines the order of the race, and they didn't get to one of those points. So like the FIA didn't have a confirmed grid order after the start. Like,
Gotcha.
they didn't.
Yeah.
After everything reshuffled, they weren't able to confirm the grid order, and maybe it wasn't even having to do with Lewis being second or third. It was more like probably like Bottas being 12th or 11th. You know what I mean? Maybe they weren't sure or whatever.
Yeah. Yep.
But again, stupid. It's just how the rules were.
Yeah, I don't get that. But I wasn't really complaining because I didn't understand that part. I just thought it was like, oh, shit, now they got to go back to the original. Which, after the original start, what happened? Not so great for these two guys.
Right. Well, Sainz was not going to – it was pretty crazy to watch. I mean, it was a weird angle at first, and, like, Max had to go on the grass. So, like, it really looked like Sainz was just going to do anything and everything possible not to give up that position again. Like, he was going to drive in – like, not into Max, but he was going to push Max off because he did. And it was awesome to watch. I'm not, like, offended because I'm a Max fan. It was awesome to watch, and I'm sure Max, whatever, he had his own –
yeah, I mean, I was super impressed by Sainz, and I thought after the race restarted, I thought, well, Max is going to overtake him, for sure. Based on Sainz has been the whole year. It's not like I don't think he's a good driver. I think he's a good driver, but compared to Verstappen and some of the other guys, I just don't think he's on their level. But
sure, yeah.
I mean, he was today.
He was today. I was going to say there was a couple of drivers, Sainz being one of them, that I really thought just like kind of broke out. This weekend, him and Latifi, obviously, I think.
Yeah.
Latifi had a really good start to the race. Like we said, he jumped up like 2 positions. He ended up finishing like 14th or 15th, which is not, maybe good for him, but not that great because only like 17 drivers completed the race.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, Latifi all weekend, to make it to Q3 and then to start 10th. I mean, and then to have that great start on the first start was awesome.
Yeah, hopefully we can see, hopefully this is like a start of a turnaround for him because it was whatever. Yeah. Obviously not going his way in the beginning of the year.
Right, exactly.
But yeah, getting back to Carlos a little bit just on that restart. It was absolutely insane to watch. And like you said, it was kind of the inverse of what happened in the beginning of the original race. Sainz got ahead and definitely thought Max was going to get by him. He did. So I forgot. Sainz ended up going off, right? He ended up, I don't know, getting out of shape. I don't know what happened. Maybe it was a weird, tailwind that pushed him off or whatever. But he got out of shape and, had to go off on one of the turns. I definitely don't remember what turn it was. But Max got through, and then they were definitely jockeying around. Maybe they traded positions once or twice after that. But yeah, so they were jockeying for position. Like I said, they maybe traded positions once or twice after that, after Sainz got out of shape, went off. And then Max had a couple issues, which is a little bit concerning. I mean, it ended up, at first they thought it was a puncture in the tire, changed tires, went back out. I think they put him on, did they put him on hards? Was that when they put him on hards? Or I think there was another pit stop, wasn't there, after that?
They changed the tires, and then I want to say 5 to 7 laps later, they changed them again.
Right. So they thought the tires were the issue. I think put him on a fresh set of mediums, and then went back out there still having problems. I don't know. They definitely weren't like undiagnosed issues. They knew what was going on. I just can't exactly remember what the specific issues were. But
okay, so I'm looking on the F1 website now. It says Verstappen reveals part of the floor was completely destroyed by debris after lowly P7 finish. That's so debris. Yes.
Debris.
So what happened on that when he was coming around the turn and he went over a curb.
Yeah.
And then that's when something happened. They thought it was a puncture in a tire.
Right.
But went back. Tires were still inflated when he went to pit.
Yeah.
And then changed the tires and came back out. Could still feel something wrong with the car. What they determined was it wasn't a mechanical issue. He was safe to drive. It was just a performance-based damage or whatever they call it, and then was still fine for him to drive, but obviously not great for him. Came back few laps later. They changed him back to
They put him on hard
tires, I think, and then he didn't have very nice words for them after that. So
right, so they
typical Max.
I know. So it was funny.
There
kind of reminded me at first. He was like, he was having problems with the car. He's like, yeah, tires aren't lovely. I'm like, oh boy. And then that's when it first started. But then they put him on these hard tires, right? And this was at the point of the race where I think he was one of the first people to go on hards, and then other people started to. But everyone was having problems getting temperature into the tires. They had no grip. So this really obviously made Max a little bit angry. He was already struggling with probably everything about the car, much less grip. Then they put him on these hard tires. Thank God that he's the best driver in the world, because he managed to fend off Mick Schumacher at the end and everything like that, and kind of salvage a little bit of what was a lowly day for Max Verstappen. But so that was kind of his story today. The uneventful, well, not uneventful, very eventful, but probably a little bit of a disappointing finish for him.
Yeah, for sure.
On the counterpart, his teammate, Sergio Perez, ended up finishing really well. I don't know. Do you remember where he started? It was low. It was like 8th, right? Something like that.
I don't think I know, but I'm trying to find it here.
Here, we can do this.
Yeah, not really sure, but yeah, I mean, Perez had, he was hanging around all day, and then at the end, really came back and was in contention there and ended up finishing second, which was kind of amazing.
Yeah, he fought his way all the way, up the grid. He was extremely low. Okay, he qualified 5th, so not the best, not the worst for him. Yeah. And then he was definitely, I don't know if it was due to a pit stop, bad start, whatever it was, but he was like around 10th, right?
Yeah.
To 8th to 10th, I remember, at one point in the race, ended up making it all the way up to 2nd, and definitely had his fair share of battles with Hamilton and Leclerc. Lando and Alonso also got in the mix there. I remember there was one point where it was like Leclerc, Perez, Alonso, Lando, and Hamilton. They were all like right in a pocket, and they were all battling and jockeying for position.
5 laps left or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
That was probably thanks to the safety car. I think it was Ocon, right? He had some sort of failure and stopped on the back straight.
Yeah.
So they had to deploy the safety car, bunched everybody up, and gave us definitely a good ending.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's a lot more to talk about before we get to the end.
But yeah, for the first part of the race, though, not first part, but after things were sorted out, it was, 2 Ferraris ahead of Hamilton, and they end up pitting Sainz.
They pitted Sainz first, right?
First.
Yeah.
And then they pitted Leclerc, but Leclerc was up. I don't know how Leclerc was up by 18. What did I text you? He was up.
I was just
going to
say we were texting about this. Yeah.
And I thought it was a little bit of a bad move, because then they gave Lewis the lead,
right,
with 19 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah, because you said, I think Ferrari screwed up. Leclerc is now 18 seconds behind. Lewis should pit now. Yeah. Because Lewis could have pitted and been right next to Leclerc.
Right, because the average time was 19 seconds to pit.
19.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then Lewis ended up pitting. I don't know. He ended up going. So there was a question whether he was going to remain on those tires and try and hold those tires for a little bit longer, then go to softs.
Oh, yeah. Because he kept saying tires are fine.
Tires are fine. And then they told him to pit, and they had a little issue in the pits. I mean, the pit stop was 4.43 or something like that.
It was.
They had an issue with the right front tire.
I remember that.
And it took a little longer to get it off, get it on, whatever. But he ended up coming back out behind both Ferraris.
Yeah. And
But
then that's where kind of
they were hoping he was going to come back out and be in between the Ferraris.
Yeah.
What happened was he came back out and he was 3 to 4 seconds behind both Ferraris.
Right. So it probably had to do with the slow pit stop and maybe just, calling it one lap too late to come in.
Right.
Or maybe a couple laps too late, to be honest.
Right.
And then, so they put him on those. So this was the pit stop where he was questioning whether they were the right tires.
I don't think so.
Or no, he pitted again. Sorry.
He pitted again.
Confused.
They put mediums on, I think.
Yeah.
But then later in the race, they had him when the safety car came out.
Yeah.
He pitted immediately, and they put softs on, and then he questioned, "Is this the right move?"
Yeah, he was like, "Are you sure these are the right tires or whatever?"
Yeah.
And they ended up not being. So.
Yeah, I mean that was, when you got the driver that knows the car, like we were discussing after, some of these drivers maybe they know better than the management.
Yeah.
He knows the car. He knows what's working well, and then he questions. We're going to soft tires. Are you sure this is? He said, "Are you sure this is the right move?"
Yeah, he did question it after they put him on though. So
right.
I don't know. Or maybe they played the radio message after. They play them.
I don't
obviously.
know.
So
I don't know.
But it's funny you bring that up because there was a video of Lando Norris and during an interview and was just maybe asked about something similar to that. He was saying that he thinks that the drivers. It had to do with the rules, but I guess it's kind of the same concept that the drivers know a lot about what's going. They typically know more than anybody else about what's going on with a Formula One car, how they work, and things like that. So he was saying that the drivers should be listened to more as far as regulation changes go and things like that. The same thing goes with, in their own team. I'm sure maybe he feels the same way, just didn't want to say it in public. But,
Yeah, and there was a comment after the race, too, that Lewis, when they tell him, okay, Lewis P3, and he said, great job, team, and he made I forgot, I'll have to go back and listen, but I think it was something like, we have to sharpen up all edges or something like that. We have to sharpen up all angles.
Yeah, it wasn't like...
he said, great job, team. Really proud of you guys.
Yeah.
We got to sharpen things up. We got to sharpen up everything or something.
Because I remember the announcers saying, like, oh, maybe he was inciting that they could have won today.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I mean, maybe he thought the medium tires were the way to go and leave them on and leave them out there. And
they seemed like just a general consensus today. It seemed like the medium tires were the tires that were working the best at the track. It seemed like Lewis and some other people were having trouble with softs, and Max and some other people are having trouble with hards.
Yeah, and the tires weren't degrading as fast on this track, it seemed like. They were lasting a long time.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's kind of something that they alluded to also with just the track.
Yeah, so I definitely think we got to talk about Ferrari a little bit at the end. Both drivers, I think. Leclerc, we were just saying, he ran the whole race with damage. Do you remember what damage specifically?
I think it was front wing.
Front wing. I didn't want to. I wasn't sure.
I think it was the part that sticks up vertically on front wing, maybe.
Yeah, like kind of the ends.
Yep.
Oh, right, because they were saying that. I remember they were just kind of explaining for people like us who don't know a lot about the technical side of things. Basically, it just one little thing like that can screw up how all of the air flows on that side of the car, which is going to screw up basically everything. Is the dumbed down version of what they were saying. Is it just affects basically everything, and it's just this little minute piece.
So on the last part of the race, so it was
Leclerc,
Sainz, Hamilton, Lando, Alonso.
Yeah.
And what they wanted Carlos to do was hold the other cars back.
Yeah.
So I just pulled it up exactly what he said. So that conversation was, here's what Ferrari said. The instruction is to give 10 car lengths to Charles as some breathing space. Sainz says, but guys, I'm under pressure from Hamilton. Please don't ask these things. Please stop inventing. I'm under pressure also. And then Carlos also says, I'm going to be a lot quicker than Charles. Ricky, who I guess is a guy from Ferrari,
Like his engineer.
give 10 car lengths to Charles. Carlos says, I'm under pressure from Hamilton. Please don't ask these things. Trust me, there's more to lose than that. So, Carlos basically told them to fuck off.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, 100%. And it's great. Listen, these guys want to win races. And, you can't, even though they're teammates and, yeah, maybe Leclerc is above him in the points or whatever, but if he's got the better car and he knows what's going on out there, it's like he just basically told them, forget it. I'm doing what I want to do.
See, the thing is, I'm surprised people don't do this more, or F1 drivers don't do this more. These guys are lunatics. You know what I mean? Yeah. They are absolute lunatics that want to win this race at all costs. You know what I mean? And the announcers kept saying things that kept saying some things about Carlos wanting to drive for himself and not the team. I just don't agree in this situation. They're not in the lead for the championship. They're not in the lead for the Constructors' Championship. Leclerc is not running away with anything at the moment, especially a podium. I mean, and I don't know. It just didn't seem like the time.
And at that point, it seemed like Lewis was going to take him over.
Yeah.
We didn't know for sure, but I mean, we know now that he wouldn't have because I think they made a wrong call with the tires.
Yeah. But and the other thing is too, Ferrari as a team has screwed over their drivers with strategy and management before, so maybe Carlos said no, he knew he had the tires, he knew he had the car, he knew he was faster, he knew he can get around him, so he took it into his own hands, and I don't know, it's a good end result for Ferrari at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really glad he won, to be honest. I did not think he was going to win.
No. And let's mention, obviously, first ever win in F1.
Yeah,
huge for
crazy.
him. Huge for him, and I would hate if anyone in their team whatever. I would hate if it wasn't as celebrated as it would be. You know what I mean? If he was just set up to win from the whole time and he didn't overtake his teammate. I would hope that he gets the full.
Yeah, he should.
As they say.
You got the pole.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, what do they want from him?
He qualified first. He fended off Max in the restart. Yes, he went off, but he put himself in the position to win, and he got a good team result.
Yeah, it was great. It was a great race.
They did show, I don't know if you caught it, that Mattia Binotto is the team boss for Ferrari, obviously, kind of talking to Leclerc after pretty sternly, and he was like it was like a slow-mo clip that they played, and he was in his face like this. So really? I think that Leclerc kind of said one thing or another and had to be reminded that whatever, it is a team sport at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I think we've seen some incidences like this, or the one I'm thinking of is with Verstappen and Ricciardo, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he just completely ran into him.
Oh, in Baku, 2018, I think that was. Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Again, before we watched,
but that's incredible if you go back and watch that. I mean, those are teammates, and they completely disregarded, the teammate rule, basically.
Right. Right, and that's the thing is, like I said before, these guys are fucking lunatics. You know what I mean? I'm surprised this doesn't happen more, just because, like I said, they're gonna go for an open gap if there is one. They're gonna go for
and the whole thing is they know the car, and if they know the car's not good enough, then most of them will say that not good enough. Yeah, great. We'll trade positions right now.
Yeah.
But if they know the car's good enough, no, the car's good enough.
Yeah.
I want to win.
Yeah. Exactly. We kind of see that with Perez a little bit this year, this year, because last year, obviously, it was Max and Lewis. That was the fight. Nobody else was close. We kind of see what Perez this year. He's driving really well. He's scoring a lot of points, and he's kind of pushing back a little bit on team radio and really taking those opportunities when he's given them to win the race or score a lot of points.
Yeah, because you got to think in the back of these guys' minds that, maybe if I was with another team that didn't have Max Verstappen, I'd be winning. Right. Well, or I'd be the number one driver.
Well, that's the thing. They'd be the number one driver, but this is also Perez's shot to be in a championship winning car. You know what I mean?
Right.
This is his chance to drive a car that's actually capable of winning the championship. I don't know. He's definitely doing amazing, though. He's definitely in the mix. He's not out of the mix, in my opinion. Again, it's definitely like hard to say that he would even really challenge Max in a 1v1 for the championship. Would Red Bull even let that happen because they just signed Max for like 6, 7, 8 years or something like that? I don't know. But yeah, no, definitely wanted to touch on that as well.
Yeah, I mean, team orders prevail most of the time, but
not today.
You know,
not today.
But congrats to Lewis for finishing P3, getting on the podium.
Let's talk about that move really quick. Yeah, I was gonna say, because we both like were watching it alone and said things like just screamed out loud because like it was just I don't know. Go ahead.
So who was it he was following? Was Sainz?
It was Perez and Leclerc, correct? And it was Hamilton battling.
Yep.
Yeah.
Perez and Leclerc.
Yeah. And then so Perez and Leclerc are jockeying for position back and forth. I don't know who was on the outside, but they both kind of, I don't know if they go off the racing line, but they go to the outside of the track, and then all of a sudden Lewis just slides right in. And
it was crazy. I just couldn't believe what I saw. They both kind of were going around by the curb, off the curb, whatever, and then Lewis just cut to the inside and went right around them. That's the first time I've vocally cheered and screamed because I thought it was the greatest thing ever. And he didn't end up obviously keeping the position, but it was a great move. That's just unbelievable. Yeah.
I said out loud, "Oh my God!" I didn't even see him. I don't even know if he was in the picture, like what they were showing on TV, to be honest. And he just came out of nowhere, scooped up those 2 positions. I think he ended up finishing in between them.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So it was a great race.
Great race. Definitely the most exciting race we've ever watched.
Yeah. There's so much going on, so we wanted to capture it all, but it was it's a lot to talk about. I'm sure we forgot some things, but it's just fresh in our mind. Today we're recording this, and today the race happened this morning. So it's we wanted to record it today just to
it was fresh
recap,
and
fresh in our minds because it was incredible,
absolutely incredible. And if that's all you got, that's all I got. So
that's all I got.
All right, well,
on to when's the next race?
It's actually the Red Bull at the Red Bull Ring in Austria. So that is July 8th to the 10th. I'll run you through the times in the next video, actually, because we're running out of time.
Good.
So we will see you next time. Really thank you so much for watching, and have a good one.
Out.